of they call this a radio show, but you can see me, can you not? So I don't know. I don't know what to call it. A streaming video show on the Oneness Radio Network. So here we are moving into the end of the year. End of 2022, moving into 2023. I'll do an official forecast show for 2023, either on the 31st of December or January 7th of 2023. Kind of wrestling with that. Then I'm also supposed to make an appearance on Alan Steinfeld's New Realities show with some other astrologers, I think some psychics, to make some predictions for the coming year. And I'll let you know about that. You can also count on my blog at the end of the year to be filled with forecast for the coming year. I'm going to talk a little bit about that today, but for the most part, we're going to be talking more in depth about that, like world and personal lives. The most when I do that show, write that blog, do that other show. So end of December, beginning of January, there'll be a lot of forecasting that I'll get involved in. I just finished teaching a class for the LightNet organization. It was an 8-week class, and it was a combination of me teaching some astrology, looking at class participants' charts, and then I did some astral travel, remote viewing of planets. I would do a guided meditation and take the souls, take the minds out to different planets. We visited Venus. We visited Chiron. We visited the Pleiades. We visited Jupiter. And Wednesday, we went down into Middle Earth also. So really interesting experiences, and kind of amazing to me how many people had similar experiences, like Venus, for instance. Every single person in the class made contact. They sure felt they made contact pretty strongly. And the things that they were saying were similar to one another. The craziest thing to me was so many of them saw the color pink on Venus. Well, wow, huh? Venus is the female sign, ruler of both Libra and Taurus. And people saw pink, and they've visited too. And almost everybody had a positive experience with the Pleiades. And when I visited there in the class that I was in a few months ago, I had the same experience up to Pleiades, like very welcoming. Thanks for coming back. Whatever these entities were, that wasn't real clear to me what they looked like exactly. I felt them, probably even more than I saw them, but did see them. And that was a very welcoming planet for me and for a lot of the people that participated in the class. They felt the same way without me having told them that I felt that way when I took the class. So that was kind of amazing. LightNet's an amazing organization. I've had a Zenka on before, Zenka Caro, and she's helped put together quite a program there. She's kind of the main director. And on Sundays they do, I haven't gone to it yet, but they do a spoon bending thing. And they've sent out the photographs to it. It was like amazing. People just standing there and spoon bends, fork bends. And it's happening. There's so much amazing that's happening at the same time that all of the violence and the craziness and the selfishness is going on in our 4D world. In the other dimensions, there's a lot of wonderful things that are happening. And those dimensions are going to be the 3D world. It's like we're just kind of moving out into these other places, but a lot of these places in our consciousness that we're reaching, and a lot of the things that we're seeing around connections with all sorts of beings and situations and whatever, these things are our future our solid future, not just up in our minds or, up in our imagination or up in wherever it is that we're all going. But it'll be more and more real as we actually go further into the age of Aquarius. And, I've stated before that I believed, and I still do, that the age of Aquarius began, if you can have an exact date, began pretty much at the winter solstice of 2020. And, that was right after the election that Biden won and Trump lost. And it was Jupiter conjunct Saturn at 0+ degrees of Aquarius. And for me, that was the universe like talking to me, talking to other astrologers who are looking at it and saying, this is the beginning of the age of Aquarius, because 0+ Jupiter Saturn. Mm-hmm. So I believe that. I believe that pretty strongly, that it began then. So Pluto actually will go into Aquarius early in 2023. And it's going to stay there for an extended period of time this time. Usually it stays like 12, 13 years, 14 years. It's staying over 20 years in Aquarius, Pluto. So, Pluto's the guardian of the underworld and does a lot of cleaning out and transforming whatever it touches. So it's 0 degrees of Aquarius, the very beginning of Aquarius, because that's as far as it goes. Then it goes back into 28, 29 of Capricorn. But as it touches down, we're going to get our first sense of what Pluto's going to do while it's in Aquarius. It's going to be fascinating to see what that is. And Pluto, again, is about death and rebirth. Death being of the old world in this case. And you could see it dying in Ukraine. You could see it. You could see it dying in the stock market and the economy. The old way of doing capitalism just isn't really making it as a fair system for the world. I'm not preaching socialism or communism. I don't feel that that's the answer either necessarily. But I do believe a whole other economic system is needed. And that's what's going to happen. The United States is in the full throes of its Pluto square Pluto, which can only happen like once every 240 or 250 years. So the United States was born on July 4th, 1776. And Pluto was at 27+ degrees of Capricorn. And now, 40 some years later, Pluto's back to that exact same spot, 27+ degrees of Capricorn. And Pluto in the United States natal chart became, through time, the military-industrial complex. It sits in the second house of the United States natal chart. Power, Pluto, resources, money, second house, the Taurus house. So that's the military-industrial complex. And it's got such power not only in the country but in the world, because military-industrial means just what it sounds like, military, and then they used to call it industrial. Now you can just call it economic corporate. And you can see how much ruling that military-industrial complex that the United States has over this world. We have troops all over the world. The dollar is used as the main source of any trades or transactions that are made in the world. All that's going to change too. I believe that the dollar will not be the main currency in the world that much longer. No more than a couple of years at the most, I think, if that long. So these next 6 months now are going to really shake things up in a pretty big way. The cusp of the new age, and I've said it before, started in 1781 when Uranus was discovered. It was the first planet recognized and seen and honored past Saturn, further out than Saturn. And so Saturn was the furthest planet out for centuries and centuries. And then Uranus was discovered, not coincidentally, but synchronistically. At the same time, the American and French revolutions were happening. So Uranus was moving us past what Saturn represents. There's a lot of authority in Saturn, as those of you that follow astrology know. A lot of authority. even the God that people chose, patriarchal type God, male God, white male sitting on a throne with a beard. Well, wow, what does that look like? That's like, come on. That was probably needed for a while, that people felt safer if it was a male white God. But that doesn't make any sense. Why would it be something like that? Do you think the universe is dominated by male energy? No, the United States culture perhaps has been, perhaps. But the universe, that wouldn't be right with it. Look at my yin yang sign. Look at my yin yang sign. We know that. Oh, it's right over my head, too. It's the balance between the opposites. It's the balance between the opposites. Deb, are you able to hear me?
Are you on the phone?
No. Why?
Oh, I heard you talking to someone.
Deb, I'm in the middle of the show, honey. I'm talking on the show.
The show's at 1 o'clock.
Yeah. Oh, it's only 12. Oh, my God. I have a whole other hour here. What am I going to do with all this? What am I going to do with this?
The show's not on yet, is it?
I know, but it's been on.
You better turn it off.
Oh, my God. How can I get back on it? It's going to be over.
No, just start over.